Coach Prime staying put, agreeing today to a 5-year, $54 million deal to stay in Boulder. Your immediate reaction?
I think it's great for Deion and deserved, and I also think it's good for Shedeur.
Interesting.
Because I think if there were teams who were worried, can our coach handle the specter of Deion, or coaches that were worried, man, if I advocate for Shedeur, could Deion, swoop in? This certainly, it doesn't make that 0%, but this certainly makes it less likely. Mm-hmm. And I also think that it validates that there was real stake to all the sizzle that he's done at Colorado. You know what I mean? And so I think I was skeptical of them this year. Last year, it was they were a horrible team before he got there, and I thought last year winning 4 games was an accomplishment, or 2 years ago. This year, after I watched the first couple games, I'm like, a lot of those same problems I think are going to pop up, and I think when they play real Power 5 teams, they're going to get cooked, and they were really good. They weren't great, they were really good. So I think he deserves it, and I think it's, as an added bonus, good for his son's draft prospects.
No, I agree with all that. I'm happy for Deion. There's a part of me, I was into the idea of Deion being in the NFL. I was into the idea of him going to the Cowboys. I thought that would be great.
Are you sure that's dead?
Well, like Nick said, it could happen at some point, but this does make it a little less likely. I would even go into Florida State, obviously where he played, more of a blue blood type program, a traditional power. But look, with the NIL
and with the transfer
portal, he can do that in Colorado. We see a lot of teams, that aren't traditional powers playing big ball.
Push back on you for a second before we get to Greg? Because I was talking to Dusty about this. Kalen DeBoer went from Washington to Alabama because the Alabama job opened up. He was signed in Washington until 2028.
No, we
there.
know this.
These are kind of written in pencil.
Mm-hmm. They absolutely.
Oh yeah, no. I think it's probably though because of this more likely to go to another college team than a pro team.
I love the idea that he's staying in college. The impact that he's having on young men, the opportunity that they get to absorb knowledge from somebody who's done it, the notoriety that they get that comes with Deion being your head coach. I love all of that. As far as Shedeur is concerned, I'm with you on this. I think this absolutely helps Shedeur right now. In the way that Deion's kind of been talking, I don't care where he goes now. Mm-hmm. Where before we were hearing, you better believe if he's going somewhere that I don't want him to go, we're going to have a problem with that. We're going to step in and intervene, and you don't hear any of that anymore. So those are all good signs for Shedeur.
Yeah, they really took my take there because that was my take, really, the foundation of this, of it helps Shedeur because never underestimate the self-preservation of, coaches, GMs, etc., where that if you do get a Shedeur Sanders, there's going to be some pressure from the coach, even the GM. There's going to be the pressure of Deion could be right around the corner, and if they're losing, whatever it may be, there's going to be a lot of questions around Deion. The Browns, they're 1-4, whatever it is. Would you want to coach for the Cleveland Browns? Whatever it may be. And it would spiral. It'd be a lot. And some coaching staff, some management, GM, whatever, they're just you start to convince yourself, even if it's the right decision to draft a Shedeur, you're kind of just let's not deal with that. Let's not deal with that. And it's easier said than done than to be you can't think like that, but you are. Nobody wants to get fired. Nobody wants to lose their job. Everybody wants to, stay where they are. And so I think there were a collection of teams that could, in theory, draft Shedeur, but that coach would absolutely have Deion potentially right over his shoulder, and no one's going to want that. No one's going to want that, and you're going to be better off just being I'm going to take a different quarterback, or we don't really need a quarterback this draft, And so I think it really does absolutely offer that clarity, and also it kind of offers that clarity for even Shedeur. Because you don't want Shedeur to be in limbo. You don't want Shedeur to feel you know what? in a year or two, my dad's going to be coaching me anyway, so none of this matters. You don't want that either, because at the heart of it, Shedeur's still a son. He's still a kid. He's still a boy to, to Deion, right? I mean, like that's just the reality of it. So the more separation that they can get, honestly, the more distance that they can get from each other would really benefit the both of them, but definitely Shedeur as well. So I think this ends up being a positive. But with all that said, and this is what they were kind of alluding to, like Wild saying, oh, this is written in pencil. It is true. This money is nothing, and who knows what the buyout is, and who knows, like, let's say the Dallas Cowboys and, they really, well, let's say they wanted Deion big time. Like, the agreements that can come up with these types of deals where it's just like, the money, either Dallas has to pay the money to, like, whatever it is, you have all these other ways that they can essentially make the money make sense, and it ends up not being that big of a deal. Contracts for within coaching staffs and all this type of stuff, like, it's just, it really is also kind of monopoly money in that regard. Like, people argued before, especially a lot of people who didn't want to see these coordinators leave, like Ben Johnson, like Cliff Kingsbury. They're like, well, he signed a 3-year contract, he's not going anywhere. And it's like, it's not how it works for coaches, Like, I think technically Ben Johnson was under contract for more than 1 year with the Detroit Lions, and he's gone. And if Cliff Kingsbury got a head coaching job that he really wanted next season, even though he's technically under contract, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter as much. So you're never like fully free from the potential fear of Deion being a head coach in the NFL, coaching Shedeur. If you're a coaching staff, and again, I think also the GM would be under threat too, because you would imagine that Deion would come in there and would want to build the team as well. So I think that was a talking point that actually had legitimate weight to it, because again, everybody wants to keep their job. Nobody wants to be fired. Nobody wants to be, marginalized. Like, everybody, wants to be the guy, and everybody wants that paycheck. So it's a real thing, and they want that more than they want to win, quite frankly. I can guarantee you, if you went to most GMs and most coaches and said, you're never going to win a Super Bowl, you're never going to make it to the playoffs, but you are going to get paid and be in the NFL for 20 years straight, as a head coach, will you do it? And I guarantee you most coaches are like, yep, sure, sign me up. I get to be a coach for 20 years in the NFL. I get paid millions of dollars. Yeah, I'll never win the Super Bowl. I wish, but beggars can't be choosers. Like, so many people would take it. So it's not always all about winning, especially if you have to potentially sacrifice your own job. So, I also want to be able to see Shedeur, because I also want to see Deion be busy and focusing on Colorado and not focus on Shedeur. I don't want to see, a whole, a whole new next evolution of like Lonzo Ball and LeVar, like all of that. Like, I don't want to see that. I just want Shedeur to be Shedeur. I just want Shedeur to be Shedeur. Not even Shedeur Sanders, just Shedeur. And it's going to be annoying because even watching Shedeur, they're going to bring up Deion every single game. I can't imagine that they're not going to mention Deion at least once a game that Shedeur plays. And they're going to show pictures of him in college, and they're going to show him with Deion, and they're going to show him when he was 10. And it's going to be annoying, honestly, because I just want to focus on Shedeur. I just want to see him play in the NFL and not have him always just be attached to his father. Let him be his own man. Let him be his own person. So the more distance they have, the better. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Deion signing this 5-year, $54 million extension? Do you think it has any impact on Shedeur at all? Where he gets drafted, etc. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.